The information provided in this video regarding email marketing, digital analytics, and business strategy is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This content does not constitute professional marketing, financial, legal, or investment advice. While we discuss historical trends and potential outcomes based on industry case studies, individual results in business vary significantly based on industry, audience, and execution. The creator of this video is not responsible for any actions taken by viewers based on this information. You are strongly encouraged to conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional before making significant business or financial decisions. 90% of the people watching this video are currently lighting money on fire every single time they hit the send button on an email campaign. You might think your business is doing well because your dashboard shows a healthy 20% open rate. But what if I told you that the most famous metric in the history of digital marketing is now, for all intents and purposes, a lie? In the next few minutes, I am going to show you why the data you have been relying on to feed your family and grow your brand has become a distorted mirror, and how a single update from big tech has rendered the traditional way of measuring success obsolete. We are entering an era where vanity metrics are leading companies into bankruptcy, while a silent minority of data-literate marketers are capturing all the profit. If you do not understand the technical mechanics of how a tracking pixel actually fires in a post-privacy world, you are not just guessing, you are gambling with your company's future. This is not just another tutorial on how to use MailChimp or Klaviyo. This is a deep dive masterclass into the forensic science of email marketing analytics. The problem we are solving today is the disconnect between digital activity and actual revenue. Most US-based business owners and marketers are drowning in a sea of percentages and bar graphs without understanding the causal relationship between a click and a customer's lifetime value. By the end of this masterclass, you will possess the ability to look at a raw analytics export and identify exactly where your funnel is leaking, why your subscribers are disengaging, and how to project potential outcomes for your Q4 revenue with surgical precision. We are moving past the surface level to explore the infrastructure of the inbox. To understand where we are going, we have to acknowledge the historical trends that brought us to this moment. For over 2 decades, email marketing has been heralded as the king of ROI, with some historical industry reports suggesting a return of up to $40 for every $1 spent. However, that statistic has created a dangerous sense of complacency. Marketers became addicted to the open rate. For the uninitiated, an open rate was traditionally calculated by a tiny, invisible 1x1 pixel embedded in the HTML of an email. When an image was loaded by the recipient's mail client, it pinged the server, and a hit was recorded. This was the gold standard for years. But then the landscape shifted. With the introduction of Apple's mail privacy protection and similar initiatives by other major providers, the server now often prefetches those images, effectively telling your marketing software that the email was opened even if the human being on the other side never even saw the subject line. This has created a massive inflation of data. If you are still basing your budget on open rates, you are making decisions based on ghost data. In this masterclass, we are going to deconstruct how to move your focus from these vanity indicators to high-intent signals. Think about a case study involving a mid-sized e-commerce brand based in Austin, Texas. They were seeing record-high open rates of 35% on their weekly newsletters. On paper, the marketing team looked like heroes. However, their actual conversion rate was plummeting, and their unsubscribe rate was quietly creeping up. They were paralyzed because the data they were taught to value told them they were winning, while their bank account told them they were losing. We solved this by implementing a weighted engagement score that ignored opens entirely and focused on a combination of click-to-open ratios, time on site after the click, and multi-touch attribution. This is the level of sophistication required to survive in the modern digital economy. In this guide, we are going to break down the 10 pillars of advanced email analytics, starting with the fundamental shift in how we define a successful delivery. We are going to go beyond the binary of delivered versus bounced. We are going to look at the nuances of inbox placement. Did your email actually land in the primary tab? Or is it rotting in the promotions folder where only 1% of users will ever see it? We will discuss the technicalities of SPF, DKIM, and MARC records, which are the digital passports of your emails. Without these, your analytics are doomed before you even send the first message because the ISPs, the internet service providers, will flag you as a high-risk sender. We are also going to explore the psychological triggers that drive the data. Analytics are not just numbers. They are the digital footprints of human psychology. When someone clicks a link in your email, they are making a micro-commitment. We will analyze how to track the velocity of these commitments. How long does it take from the moment a subscriber joins your list to the moment they make their first purchase? This is known as the latency period, and it is a metric that most marketers completely ignore. By understanding your average latency, you can begin to predict potential outcomes for your sales cycles months in advance. Furthermore, we will dive into the world of segmentation and how it impacts your reporting. Sending the same email to your entire list is a relic of 2010. Today, we use behavioral triggers to create dynamic segments. We will look at how to analyze the performance of a segment of customers who haven't purchased in 60 days versus those who purchased in the last 7. The data tells a different story for each group. You will learn how to calculate the churn rate of your list, which is perhaps the most sobering metric in all of marketing. If you are adding 1,000 subscribers a month but losing 1,200 to unsubscribes and hard bounces, your business is technically shrinking while you think it is growing. This masterclass is designed for the person who is tired of the fluff. You don't want to hear about making your subject lines catchy. You want to hear about how to use a Pearson correlation coefficient to see if there is a statistical relationship between your email send frequency and your customer retention rate. You want to know the step-by-step details of setting up UTM parameters so that your Google Analytics and your email service provider are actually speaking the same language. Most people have a fragmented view of their data. They see one thing in their email tool and another in their Shopify or Stripe dashboard. We are going to bridge that gap. We are going to look at heat maps of email engagement. We will discuss why the top left quadrant of your email is the most valuable real estate you own, and how the data proves that users have developed a natural blindness to anything that looks like a banner ad. We will look at the impact of plain text emails versus high-production HTML designs. There are historical trends suggesting that in many B2B industries, a plain text email that looks like it came from a friend will outperform a professional graphic design by 300% in terms of click-through rate. We will analyze the data behind why this happens and how you can test it for your own audience. Every step of this guide is backed by the reality of the current US market. Consumer behavior has changed. People are more protective of their time and their data than ever before. If you are going to ask for a place in their inbox, you need to justify it with value, and the only way to know if you are providing value is to master the analytics. We are going to cover the mathematics of A/B testing, ensuring that you have a large enough sample size to achieve statistical significance. Many marketers run a test on 500 people and think they found a winning strategy, not realizing that their results are within the margin of error and are essentially random. We will show you how to avoid those traps. This is a comprehensive journey into the engine room of your business. We are going to talk about the cost per subscriber, the revenue per subscriber, and how those two numbers dictate whether your business is scalable or a ticking time bomb. If your cost to acquire a subscriber is $2, but the average subscriber only generates $1.50 in revenue over their lifetime, you have a math problem that no amount of creative copywriting can fix. We will give you the tools to identify these issues early. By the time we reach the 10th part of this series, you will not just be an email marketer. You will be a data strategist. You will have the confidence to walk into any boardroom and explain not just what happened in your last campaign, but why it happened and what the potential outcomes will be for the next one. This is the start of your deep dive into the truth behind the inbox. Let's look at the first layer of the data. The first layer of data we must deconstruct is the difference between delivery and deliverability. On your dashboard, you likely see a delivery rate of 98 or 99%. In your mind, this translates to your message successfully reaching the eyes of your audience. However, in the professional landscape of 2026, that number is almost entirely meaningless. Delivery simply means that the receiving server did not physically reject the file. It does not mean the email reached the inbox. It could be sitting in the spam folder, the promotions tab, or a black hole of filtered content. Imagine if Sarah, a small business owner in Nashville who sells high-end artisanal leather goods, sends out a product launch email to her 10,000 subscribers. Her dashboard shows a 99% delivery rate. Sarah feels successful, but what she does not see is that 6,000 of those emails were routed directly to the spam folder because her technical infrastructure was misconfigured. To Sarah, the data says she reached 10,000 people. The reality is that she only reached 4,000. This is the deliverability gap, and it is the primary reason why many campaigns fail despite having great creative content. To master deliverability, we have to look at the 3 pillars of email authentication: SPF, DKIM, and MARC. These are not just technical acronyms. They are the digital credentials that tell providers like Gmail, Outlook, An Apple that you are who you say you are. Think of SPF or Sender Policy Framework as a pre-approved guest list for a high-security building. It is a record in your domain name system that lists the specific IP addresses and services authorized to send mail on your behalf. If you use a service like Klaviyo or Behave, but haven't updated your SPF record, the receiving server sees a discrepancy. It looks like someone is trying to forge your identity. Historically, being lax with SPF might have just landed you in the Promotions tab. In 2026, major ISPs have moved toward a zero-trust architecture. If your SPF record is missing or incorrect, your potential outcomes for reaching the primary inbox drop by over 60%. Next is DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. This provides a digital signature for every email you send. It ensures that the content of the email hasn't been tampered with in transit. Imagine sending a sealed envelope that can only be opened with a specific key. If the seal is broken or the key doesn't match, the mail is discarded. Case studies across the e-commerce sector show that implementing a custom DKIM signature, rather than relying on the default signature provided by an email service provider, can increase inbox placement rates by an average of 12%. This is because a custom signature builds your own domain reputation, rather than sharing a reputation with thousands of other, potentially low-quality senders on a shared IP. Then we have DMARC, which stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. This is the most critical and often most neglected piece of the puzzle. DMARC tells the receiving server what to do if the SPF or DKIM checks fail. You can set your policy to none, quarantine, or reject. In the past, most businesses kept their policy at none, which meant they were just monitoring the data. But in the current year, the industry standard has shifted. To maintain a high sender reputation, you must eventually move to a reject policy. This signals to ISPs that you take your security seriously, and that any unauthorized mail using your domain should be blocked immediately. By securing your DMARC, you are protecting your brand from spoofing and phishing, which in turn protects your long-term deliverability metrics. Beyond the technical setup, we must analyze the data of bounces. There are two types: hard bounces and soft bounces. A hard bounce occurs when the email address is permanently invalid. This could be because the domain does not exist, or the user deleted the account. A soft bounce is a temporary failure, such as a full inbox or a temporary server issue. In a deep dive analysis, you should be looking for a hard bounce rate of less than 0.5%. If your hard bounce rate hits 1%, you are in the danger zone. ISPs track this metric with extreme scrutiny. A high bounce rate suggests to the ISP that you are using an old, unverified, or purchased list, which is the fastest way to get your domain blacklisted. Step by step, you should be scrubbing your list every 30 to 60 days to remove these invalid addresses before they can damage your reputation. Consider a scenario where a marketing manager named Michael at a tech startup in San Francisco ignores his bounce data for 6 months. He continues to send to a list of 50,000 people, but 5% of those are hard bounces. Because he keeps hitting those dead addresses, the AI-driven filters at Gmail begin to categorize Michael as a low-quality sender. Slowly, even his most engaged subscribers stop seeing his emails in their primary inbox. They are being moved to spam because Michael failed to perform basic list hygiene. This is a compounding problem. Once your reputation is damaged, it can take months of perfect behavior and low volume sending to repair it. Historical trends show that it is 10 times harder to fix a ruined reputation than it is to maintain a healthy one from the start. We also need to discuss the concept of list decay. Data indicates that email lists naturally decay at a rate of roughly 22% per year. People change jobs, students graduate and lose their university emails, and individuals move away from old providers like Yahoo or AOL. If you are not actively acquiring new, high-quality subscribers, your list is effectively dying. But from an analytics perspective, you must distinguish between a dead email address and an unengaged subscriber. An unengaged subscriber is someone who still has a valid inbox but hasn't opened or clicked an email in 90 days. These individuals are silent killers of your deliverability. When an ISP sees that you are sending thousands of emails that no one is interacting with, they conclude that your content is not wanted. This lowers your sender score. A sophisticated marketer in 2026 uses a sunset policy. This is a predetermined set of rules that automatically removes or resegments subscribers who haven't engaged after a certain period. For example, if a subscriber hasn't opened an email in 90 days, you might move them into a win-back sequence with a high-value offer. If they still don't engage after 30 more days, you unsubscribe them. It sounds counterintuitive to delete subscribers you worked hard to acquire, but the data proves that a smaller, highly engaged list will always generate more revenue than a large, stagnant one. The goal is not just to have a big list, the goal is to have a list that the ISPs trust. As we look deeper into the engine of your email marketing, we have to recognize that your sender reputation is effectively a credit score for your domain. Every send is a transaction. Every open and click is a positive payment on that credit line. Every bounce and spam complaint is a missed payment. In the next layer of our masterclass, we are going to look at the metrics that occur after the email has successfully bypassed the filters. We are going to deconstruct the anatomy of the click and why the way you measure engagement might be giving you a completely false sense of security. If you thought deliverability was complex, wait until you see the forensic data behind what happens when a user actually interacts with your message. We are about to uncover why your click-through rate might be a ghost metric and how to find the real signals that lead to a purchase. The deception begins with the standard click-through rate, a metric that has been the cornerstone of marketing reports for decades. In the year 2026, a raw click-through rate is often a collection of noise rather than a signal of intent. When you see a 3% click-through rate on your dashboard, your immediate reaction might be to compare it to historical trends and feel satisfied. However, we have to look closer at the phenomenon of security clicks. As cybersecurity protocols have evolved, enterprise-level email filters now automatically click every link in an incoming email to scan the destination for malware before the user ever sees the message. This means that if you are sending to a B2B list or a large corporate database, up to 40% of your reported clicks could be non-human. If you are making budget decisions based on these inflated numbers, you are essentially chasing ghosts. To find the truth, we must pivot our focus to the click-to-open rate, or CTOR. While the click-through rate measures clicks against the total number of emails delivered, the CTOR measures clicks against the number of unique opens. This is a much more surgical indicator of how effective your content actually is. Imagine a scenario where David, a marketing director for a high-end home office furniture brand in Charlotte, North Carolina, sends two different campaigns. Campaign A has an open rate of 20% and a click-through rate of 2%. Campaign B has an open rate of 10%, but a click-through rate of 2%. On the surface, David might think they performed equally in terms of engagement. But when he calculates the CTOR, the picture changes. Campaign A has a CTOR of 10%, while Campaign B has a CTOR of 20%. This data tells David that while fewer people opened Campaign B, the content inside was twice as relevant to those who did. It indicates that the subject line for Campaign B was highly specific, attracting a more qualified audience that was ready to take action. Step by step, the first thing you need to do is isolate your unique human clicks from bot activity. Modern analytics platforms in 2026 allow you to filter out clicks that happen within the first second of delivery, which are almost certainly automated. Once you have a clean data set, you need to implement deep link tracking using UTM parameters. A UTM parameter is a snippet of code added to the end of a URL that allows you to track the source, medium, and campaign name in your web analytics tool, such as Google Analytics 4. For example, if you are sending a summer sale email, your link should not just be your website URL. It should include markers that tell your site exactly which email and which specific button the user clicked. This allows you to see the entire journey from the inbox to the checkout page. Let's look at a case study of a subscription-based coffee roaster in Seattle. They were struggling with a high volume of clicks but a low conversion rate on their landing pages. By diving into their link mapping, they discovered that 60% of their clicks were happening on the hero image at the top of the email, but only 5% were happening on the actual Buy Now button. The users were clicking the image out of curiosity, landing on a general category page, and getting lost. By changing their strategy to make the hero image non-clickable, and focusing all the visual weight on a single clear call to action button that led directly to a pre-filled shopping cart, they saw a 60% increase in their conversion rate. The clicks went down, but the revenue went up. This is the power of understanding the quality of a click over the quantity. We also need to consider the impact of the multi-click user. Historical trends show that your most valuable customers are often those who click multiple links in a single email. In 2026, we track the click depth of a subscriber. If a user clicks on your main offer, then clicks on a testimonial link, and then clicks on your FAQ, they are signaling high intent and a need for information. A sophisticated analytics setup will flag this user and perhaps trigger a secondary, more personalized follow-up if they don't complete the purchase within the next hour. This is how you use analytics to drive automated, real-time sales logic. Imagine if Marcus, who runs a professional certification course for accountants in Chicago, noticed that a specific segment of his list always clicks the curriculum syllabus link but never the pricing link. The data is telling Marcus that these potential customers are interested in the value, but are perhaps intimidated by the commitment or are still in the research phase. Instead of sending them more discount codes, which might be a historical instinct, Marcus uses this data to send them a case study of a previous student who successfully balanced the course with a full-time job. He is using the click data to solve the specific psychological barrier revealed by the analytics. Another critical factor in 2026 is the device-specific engagement data. It is no longer enough to know that someone clicked. You must know where they were when they did it. Data shows that mobile clicks often have a higher bounce rate because users are frequently distracted or in transit. If your analytics show that 70% of your clicks are coming from mobile devices, but 90% of your revenue is coming from desktop users, you have a mobile optimization problem. Your landing pages might be loading too slowly on 5G networks, or your checkout process might be too cumbersome for a thumb-operated screen. By segmenting your click data by device, you can identify these technical friction points that are costing you money. Furthermore, we must talk about the unsubscribe rate as an engagement metric. While it is often viewed as a negative, a spike in unsubscribes after a specific campaign is a loud and clear data point. It usually indicates a disconnect between your audience's expectations and the content you provided. Historical trends in the US market show that the number one reason for unsubscribing isn't the frequency of emails, but rather the irrelevance of the content. If you see an unsubscribe rate higher than 0.2% on a single send, you need to perform a postmortem on that campaign. Was the tone off? Was the offer poorly targeted? Was the subject line misleading? In the world of high-stakes email marketing, an unsubscribe is a permanent loss of a lead. Analytics allow you to catch the trend before it becomes a mass exodus. As we go deeper into this masterclass, we have to recognize that clicking a link is only the middle of the story. The ultimate goal of every email is to drive a specific business outcome, and that outcome almost always happens on your website. To truly understand your email marketing ROI, you have to be able to follow the subscriber after they leave the inbox and enter your digital store. We are moving from the world of email metrics to the world of revenue attribution. In the next part, we are going to tear down the walls between your email service provider and your financial data. We will explore the complex world of attribution models and why the way you are currently calculating the value of your subscribers is likely flawed, potentially causing you to underinvest in your most profitable channels. We are about to look at the real dollars and cents of the inbox. To understand the real dollars and cents of the inbox, we have to move past the simple idea that an email is a message and start viewing it as a high-precision financial instrument. Revenue attribution is the bridge that connects your creative efforts to your accounting software, and in 2026, this bridge is more complex than it has ever been. Most marketers are currently trapped in what we call the last-click fallacy. Imagine a consumer named Chloe in Charleston, who is looking for a new sustainable skincare routine. She first discovers your brand through a high-quality video on social media. 2 days later, she searches for your brand name on Google and clicks a paid search ad but doesn't buy. Finally, she signs up for your newsletter to get a 10% discount code, clicks the link in your welcome email, and completes a $150 purchase. If you are using a standard last-click attribution model, your dashboard will tell you that the email was responsible for 100% of that revenue. On the surface, this makes your email marketing look like a miracle worker. However, this data is deceptive. If you saw this and decided to cut your social media and search ad budget because they showed zero conversions, your email revenue would eventually wither away because the top of your funnel has been cut off. Historical trends in the US e-commerce market show that email is frequently the closer, not the opener. To truly understand the value of your inbox, you must implement multi-touch attribution or, ideally, data-driven attribution. In a data-driven model, which is the gold standard for 2026, machine learning algorithms analyze every touchpoint in Chloe's journey. It might assign 40% of the credit to the initial social discovery, 20% to the search ad, and 40% to the email. This gives you a balanced view of your return on investment and prevents you from underinvesting in the channels that actually feed your email list. Step by step, you should be looking into your analytics suite to see if you can toggle between attribution models. If your email revenue drops by 50% when you switch from last click to a linear model, It tells you that your email list is heavily dependent on other channels to warm up the leads. Now let's talk about the most important financial metric in your toolkit: revenue per email, or RPE. To calculate this, you take the total revenue generated by a specific campaign and divide it by the number of emails successfully delivered. For example, if Ethan, a SaaS founder in Austin, sends a promotional blast to 50,000 subscribers and generates $25,000 in sales, his RPE is 50 cents. This number is your North Star. Unlike open rates or click rates, RPE cannot be faked by bots or inflated by privacy settings. It is a raw reflection of the commercial value of your content. By tracking RPE over time, you can begin to see potential outcomes for your yearly revenue. If your historical data shows an average RPE of 40 cents across all campaigns, and you know you plan to send 100 campaigns this year to a list of 100,000 people, you can project a potential gross revenue of $4 million. This level of predictability is what separates professional operations from hobbyists. It allows you to make informed decisions about hiring, inventory, and scaling. If your RPE starts to dip, it is an early warning system that your list is fatigued or your offers are losing their edge, long before the total revenue numbers show a significant decline. Another critical metric is the average order value, or AOV, specifically from email traffic. Case studies across the U.S. retail sector consistently show that customers who click through from an email have a higher AOV than those coming from social media or direct search. Why? Because an email subscriber has already crossed the threshold of trust. They have given you permission to enter their private digital space. When they click, they are often in a higher state of purchase intent. In 2026, you should be segmenting your revenue data to see the AOV of your email subscribers versus your non-subscribers. If your email AOV is $80 while your general site average is $60, you have a clear financial mandate to grow your list as aggressively as possible. We also have to look at the lifetime value, or LTV, of an email subscriber. This is the total amount of money a person is expected to spend with your business from the moment they join your list until they unsubscribe or stop buying. To find this, you need to track the cohort of subscribers who joined in a specific month and monitor their spending patterns over the following 12 to 24 months. Imagine if Sarah, who runs a subscription box for pet owners, finds that a subscriber acquired through a Facebook lead ad has an LTV of $200, but a subscriber acquired through a partner webinar has an LTV of $500. Even if the webinar subscribers were more expensive to acquire, the data shows they are significantly more profitable in the long run. Analytics allow Sarah to stop chasing cheap leads and start investing in high-value relationships. One often overlooked aspect of revenue analytics is the impact of the discount-to-revenue ratio. Many businesses are addicted to using coupons to drive clicks. While this might spike your conversion rate in the short term, your analytics might show a troubling trend. Your profit margins are being eroded, and you are training your customers to never buy at full price. In 2026, sophisticated brands track the percentage of revenue that comes from discounted orders versus full-price orders within their email channel. If 90% of your email revenue is tied to a discount code, you aren't really marketing, you are just liquidating. The goal of advanced analytics is to identify the segments of your list that are willing to buy at full price based on educational content and brand affinity, allowing you to reserve discounts for the segments that truly need a nudge to convert. Furthermore, we must address the cost of inactivity. Every person on your email list who does not engage is costing you money, not just in terms of your monthly software subscription, but in the potential damage to your deliverability. By calculating the revenue per subscriber per month, you can see the actual cost of keeping dead weight on your list. If your average subscriber is worth $2 a month, but you have 20,000 people who haven't opened an email in 6 months, you are looking at a massive opportunity cost. You are essentially paying to store data that has no path to monetization. To truly master the dollars and cents of the inbox, you must move into the realm of predictive analytics. Using the historical trends we have discussed, you can begin to assign a future value to every new lead that enters your system. This allows you to bid more accurately on advertising. If you know that a new email subscriber has a potential outcome of generating $10 in profit over the next 90 days, you can comfortably spend $5 to acquire that email address. Without this data, you are flying blind, likely overspending on low-quality traffic, or, even worse, underspending on traffic that could have scaled your business to new heights. But how do you ensure that these numbers keep moving in the right direction? The answer lies in the psychological architecture of your list. It is not enough to know how much they are spending, you need to know who is spending and why. We are moving from the broad strokes of revenue into the surgical precision of segmentation. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the world of behavioral segmentation and the power of dynamic content. We will explore how to use your data to create a unique experience for every individual subscriber, effectively sending 10,000 different versions of the same email to ensure maximum relevance and profit. We are about to uncover how to make your analytics work for you on autopilot. The concept of the blast email is a ghost of a bygone era. In 2026, if you are sending the same message to everyone on your list, you are effectively shouting into a hurricane and wondering why no one is listening. The data is clear. Relevance is the only way to bypass the filter of human indifference. This brings us to the heart of behavioral segmentation, which is the process of dividing your audience into distinct groups based on what they actually do, not just who they said they were years ago when they first joined your list. This is where your analytics transition from a report card of the past into a roadmap for the future. To master this, we have to look at the three-dimensional framework known as RFM analysis. RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. Historically, this was a manual process used by direct mail companies, but in 2026, your email service provider should be calculating this in real time. Let us break down each component with surgical detail. Recency is the single most powerful predictor of future behavior. It measures how long it has been since a subscriber last engaged with your brand, whether that was opening an email, clicking a link, or making a purchase. A subscriber who interacted with your brand yesterday is statistically much more likely to interact today than someone who has been dormant for 6 months. When you analyze your recency data, you should be looking for the drop-off point. In many US-based retail case studies, there is a significant decline in engagement after the 30-day mark. This tells you exactly when your re-engagement sequences need to trigger to prevent a subscriber from sliding into the inactive category. Frequency is the second pillar. It tracks how often a subscriber interacts within a specific time frame. This allows you to identify your brand advocates. Imagine a subscriber named Emily in Denver. Emily opens every single weekly newsletter you send and clicks on at least 2 links per month. Your analytics show that her frequency is high, even if her monetary value is currently 0. Emily is a prime candidate for a brand ambassador program or a referral incentive. Without frequency data, Emily is just another number on a list. With it, she is a high potential asset for organic growth. Monetary value is the final piece. This is the total revenue a subscriber has generated. When you overlay monetary value with frequency, you find your whales. These are the people who buy often and spend a lot. However, a common mistake uncovered in historical trends is focusing only on the high monetary segment. High-level analytics in 2026 show that your most profitable growth often comes from the middle segment, those with high frequency but low monetary value. These are the people who trust you but haven't been given the right offer to move to the next level of spending. Let us look at a case study involving a luxury travel agency based in Miami. They were struggling with stagnant revenue despite a large list. By implementing an RFM model, they discovered that 40% of their list had high recency and frequency but 0 monetary value. These people were dreamers, looking at the beautiful photos of villas in Italy but never booking. Instead of sending these people more sales-heavy emails, the agency switched to sending them budget planning guides and mid-tier travel options. The potential outcome was a 25% increase in bookings within 90 days, because they stopped trying to sell a $10,000 package to a segment that was clearly signaling they weren't ready for that price point. Step by step, the implementation of behavioral segmentation starts with tagging. Every time a subscriber clicks a link, they should be tagged with a specific interest. If a user clicks a link about vegan recipes, they get a vegan tag. If they click a link about keto, they get a keto tag. Over time, you build a digital profile of every individual. By 2026, this has evolved into what we call the segment of one. This is made possible through dynamic content blocks. Imagine you are sending a single campaign about a summer sale. For a subscriber in rainy Seattle, the hero image of the email dynamically changes to show high-quality rain gear and indoor fitness equipment. For a subscriber in sunny Phoenix, that same email shows swimsuits and outdoor cooling fans. The subject line, the images, and the call to action all shift based on the data points in that individual's profile. Consider another scenario. Imagine if a fitness brand manager named Tyler in New York uses browse abandonment data. A subscriber named James visits the website and looks at a specific pair of carbon fiber running shoes 3 times in 48 hours, but does not add them to his cart. In a basic setup, nothing happens. In a sophisticated 2026 setup, James receives an email 4 hours later. This is not a generic reminder. The email contains a deep dive technical breakdown of the carbon fiber plate in those specific shoes and a video testimonial from a marathon runner. The analytics from these types of behavioral triggers show conversion rates that are often 5 to 10 times higher than standard promotional emails. This is because you are meeting the customer at the exact moment of their highest interest with the exact information they need to make a decision. We must also discuss the role of zero-party data. This is data that the subscriber intentionally and proactively shares with you. This often comes from quizzes, surveys, or preference centers. In the current privacy-first environment, zero-party data is the most valuable asset you can own. Historical trends show that consumers are willing to give up information if they believe it will lead to a better experience. For example, a skincare brand might ask a new subscriber about their skin type during the sign-up process. That one data point allows the brand to filter out 80% of their products that are irrelevant to that user, ensuring that every email sent is highly targeted. The analytics of zero-party data campaigns show significantly lower unsubscribe rates and higher long-term loyalty. However, the most advanced form of segmentation in 2026 is predictive segmentation. This uses historical data and machine learning to project future behavior. Your analytics tool might flag a group of subscribers as being at high risk of churning. This isn't based on a single action, but on a subtle pattern of declining engagement over several months. Perhaps they are opening emails later than they used to, or they have stopped clicking on certain types of content. By identifying these patterns early, you can automate a proactive intervention, such as a personalized video message or an exclusive loyalty reward, to bring them back into the fold before they hit the unsubscribe button. To truly capitalize on these segments, you need to understand the mechanics of testing. It is not enough to just create segments. You have to prove that your segmented approach is actually driving more value than a control group. This is where most marketers fall short. They assume their intuition is correct without looking at the statistical significance of their results. You need to know how to set up an experiment where one group receives a generic email and another receives a dynamically personalized one, and then measure the delta in revenue between the two. This leads us to a critical crossroad in our masterclass. We have discussed the technical infrastructure, the financial metrics, and the power of behavioral data. But all of this relies on one fundamental assumption, that you are testing the right things in the right way. Most people treat A/B testing like a coin flip, but in reality, it is a rigorous scientific process that can be the difference between a stagnant brand and a market leader. In the next part, we are going to dive into the high-stakes world of multivariate testing and experimental design. We will uncover why your current tests are likely lying to you, and how to build a testing framework that provides undeniable proof of what actually moves the needle for your specific audience. We are about to turn your email marketing into a laboratory for growth. The foundation of turning your email marketing into a laboratory for growth is the transition from anecdotal evidence to statistical significance. Most marketers in the United States operate on a dangerous diet of gut feelings and common sense. They think a subject line with an exclamation point will perform better because they personally like it, or they assume that sending an email at 10 in the morning on a Tuesday is the gold standard because an article from 2018 told them so. In the professional landscape of 2026, these assumptions are liabilities. To find the truth, we must employ the scientific method through rigorous A, B, and multivariate testing. But we must do it with the level of mathematical precision that most small to mid-sized businesses currently ignore. Let us start with the most basic form of experimentation, the A/B test, also known as a split test. In a traditional A/B test, you take a single variable such as a subject line, and you create two versions. You send version A to 10% of your list, and version B to another 10%. After a predetermined amount of time, the winning version is sent to the remaining 80%. However, here is where the data often becomes skewed. In 2026, with the inflation of open rates due to privacy protections, choosing a winner based on opens is a recipe for failure. If you are testing a subject line, you should be measuring the click-to-open rate or, ideally, the conversion rate. Imagine a case study involving Jackson, who runs a high-growth supplement brand based in Austin, Texas. Jackson wanted to test whether curiosity-based subject lines performed better than benefit-driven subject lines. Subject line A was, "The one ingredient you are missing." Subject line B was, "Boost your energy by 20% today." In a shallow analysis, subject line A had a 40% open rate, while subject line B had a 30% open rate. Most marketers would have declared subject line A the winner. But Jackson looked deeper into his analytics. While more people opened email A, almost no one clicked. They felt misled. Email B, however, had a significantly higher click-through rate and generated 3 times the revenue. By focusing on bottom-line metrics rather than vanity opens, Jackson avoided a potential outcome where he would have trained his audience to stop trusting his subject lines. Step by step, to run a statistically significant test, you must first determine your sample size. This is a mathematical requirement. If your list is too small, your results are essentially noise. In 2026, we use power analysis to determine how many people need to see a test before we can be 95% confident that the result isn't due to random chance. If you have a list of 5,000 people and you are testing a 2% difference in click rates, a 10% test group is nowhere near enough. You might need to test on 50% of your list to get a reliable result. If you don't have a large enough list, your best strategy is to run longitudinal tests, where you compare the performance of multiple campaigns over a month rather than a single send. Now let us move into the deep end, multivariate testing or MVT. While A/B testing looks at one variable, MVT looks at the interaction between multiple variables. This is where you test the subject line, the hero image, and the button color all at once. Imagine if Elena, a marketing manager for a luxury fashion retailer in Los Angeles, wants to optimize her welcome sequence. She creates a matrix of variables. She has 2 subject lines, 2 different header images, one featuring a lifestyle shot and one featuring a product shot, and 2 different call to action colors. This creates 8 different versions of the same email. The complexity of MVT is that it requires a much larger volume of data to reach a conclusion, but the potential outcomes are far more sophisticated. Elena might find that subject line A works best when paired with the lifestyle image, but subject line B works best when paired with the product shot. This is called an interaction effect. If Elena had only run simple A/B tests, she might have missed the fact that her visual and textual elements were either clashing or complementing each other. In 2026, we use AI-driven testing platforms that can handle this level of complexity, automatically shifting traffic to the winning combinations in real time. Another critical component of your testing framework is the concept of the holdout group. This is perhaps the most sobering metric in all of email analytics. A holdout group is a segment of your list, typically 5 to 10%, that is intentionally excluded from receiving any marketing emails for a set period, such as 30 or 90 days. Why would you do this? To measure incremental lift. Imagine if a major electronics retailer in Chicago sends 3 emails a week. They see a steady stream of revenue. However, when they implemented a 10% holdout group, they discovered that 30% of the people in the holdout group bought anyway, without ever receiving an email. This data proved that 30% of their email-attributed revenue was not actually caused by the emails. Those customers were going to buy regardless. The emails were just taking credit for an existing behavior. By understanding this incremental lift, the retailer was able to identify which emails were actually driving new sales, and which ones were simply annoying their most loyal customers. This allowed them to reduce their send frequency, which improved their long-term deliverability and reduced their unsubscribe rate without sacrificing revenue. We also need to discuss the psychology of the call to action, or CTA, through the lens of data. Historical trends show that the placement, copy, and visual weight of your CTA are the most important elements of your email body. But how do you test them? You should be looking at the click map data. Step by step, analyze whether your users are clicking the button, the image above the button, or a text link in the first paragraph. In 2026, we are seeing a trend where secondary CTAs, smaller, less intrusive links later in the email, are driving higher quality traffic with a lower bounce rate than the giant, flashing buy now button at the top. The data suggests that once a user has been educated by the content, their intent to purchase is more stable. Consider a scenario where you are testing the wording of your CTA. Instead of shop now, you test see the collection. One sounds like a demand for money, the other sounds like an invitation to explore. In many case studies for high-end lifestyle brands, the invitation-style CTA outperforms the aggressive sales CTA by over 20% in terms of revenue per email. But you won't know if this applies to your specific audience in the US market until you run the test and look at the significance of the results. Furthermore, we must address the timing of your tests. Data from 2026 shows that the day of the week matters less than the context of the user's life. Instead of testing Tuesday versus Thursday, you should be testing behavior-based timing. For example, testing an email sent 2 hours after a cart abandonment versus 24 hours after. The potential outcomes of getting this timing right are massive. Historical trends in the SaaS industry show that an immediate follow-up often has a high open rate, but a lower conversion rate because the user is still in the research phase, whereas a delayed follow-up catches them when they are ready to make a final decision. To build a true laboratory for growth, you must document every test. You need a centralized database where you record the hypothesis, the variables, the results, and the statistical significance. Over time, this becomes your brand's proprietary playbook. You stop guessing because you have a library of proven winners. But even with a perfect testing framework, there is one area where most marketers still fail. They don't know how to read the life cycle of their subscribers. They treat a new lead the same as a 5-year veteran. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the world of lifecycle analytics. We will explore how to map the journey of a subscriber from their first click to their final purchase, and how to identify the invisible danger zones where you are most likely to lose them forever. We are about to look at the long game of email marketing. The life cycle of a subscriber begins the millisecond their email address hits your database. And we also need to discuss the concept of the win-back inflection point. This is the exact moment when the probability of a subscriber ever buying again drops below 10%. For many retail brands, this happens around the 6-month mark of inactivity. If you wait until a year has passed to try and win someone back, the data shows your chances of success are nearly zero. You are essentially emailing a cold lead. However, by using lifecycle analytics to identify the 90-day mark as a pre-churn indicator, you can deploy a high-value sequence that has a much higher likelihood of re-engaging the user. Historical trends indicate that a well-timed re-engagement campaign at the 90-day mark can recover up to 15% of drifting customers, whereas a campaign at the 180-day mark recovers less than 2%. Let us go deeper into the mathematics of customer lifetime value, or CLV. Most people look at CLV as a static number, but in 2026 we look at CLV velocity. This is the rate at which a customer's value grows over time. Imagine if you have two customers, Chloe and Jacob. Both have spent $500 with you. On the surface, they are equal. But Chloe spent that $500 over 2 years, while Jacob spent it in 2 months. Jacob has a much higher CLV velocity. Your analytics should be flagging the Jacobs of your list. These are your power users. They are the ones who should be invited into exclusive beta tests or high-level loyalty programs. If you treat Chloe and Jacob the same, you are missing an opportunity to scale your highest-performing segment. Step by step, to implement lifecycle analytics, you need to set up custom dashboards that track these cohorts automatically. You cannot rely on manual exports. You need to see the movement between segments in real time. Are people moving from your new lead segment to your active customer segment at a healthy rate? Are your active customers sliding into the at-risk segment? By visualizing these flows, you can see the health of your business as a living, breathing system, rather than a series of disconnected campaigns. Imagine a scenario where a fashion brand in New York uses this data to identify that their subscribers who join via a specific influencer's link have a 50% higher CLV velocity than those who join through organic search. Even though the influencer leads are more expensive upfront, the data proves they are a better long-term investment. This is the level of insight that allows you to outcompete larger brands with bigger budgets. You are not outspending them, you are outthinking them with data. But all of this sophisticated lifecycle tracking relies on one thing. The data itself must be clean. If your list is filled with bots, old addresses, and junk data, your cohorts will be skewed, your TBO will be wrong, and your CLV projections will be a fantasy. You might think your lifecycle is broken when in reality, your list is just dirty. This leads us to one of the most technical and high-stakes parts of the masterclass. We have looked at the strategy, the psychology, and the math, but now we have to look at the maintenance of the machine itself. In the next part, we are going to dive into the surgical process of list hygiene and the technical infrastructure of the modern inbox. We will uncover the hidden traps that cause even the most sophisticated analytics to fail, and how to ensure your data remains a source of truth, rather than a source of confusion. We are about to go under the hood for a deep cleaning of your entire marketing system. To truly understand the long game, we also have to account for the indirect value of a subscriber. In 2026, analytics allow us to track the referral influence of a life cycle. Some subscribers may never buy a high-ticket item, but they may have a historical trend of sharing your content or referring 5 other people who do buy. We call this the network value of a subscriber. If you only look at direct revenue, you might purge these people from your list during a hygiene sweep, effectively cutting off a major source of organic growth. Advanced analytics platforms now assign a social score to subscribers based on their sharing behavior. This is a crucial layer of the life cycle. You might have a segment of fans who have a $0 CLV, but a $10,000 network value. These are your brand's evangelists. Finally, we must consider the ethical use of this data. In 2026, privacy regulations like the updated CCPA and international standards mean that how you track these life cycles must be transparent. The data shows that when you are upfront with subscribers about how you use their engagement to provide a better experience, trust increases. A subscriber who trusts you is a subscriber who stays in the engagement phase longer. We will look at how to build transparency into your lifecycle tracking to ensure you are compliant, while still getting the deep insights you need to grow. The long game of email marketing is about building a sustainable, data-driven relationship that benefits both the brand and the consumer. The life cycle is the map, but the data is the fuel. Now let us make sure that fuel is pure. Maintaining the purity of your data fuel begins with the aggressive and systematic removal of what we call zombie subscribers. In the high-stakes environment of 2026, a large email list is no longer a badge of honor. It is a potential liability that can sink your entire marketing infrastructure. If your database is cluttered with inactive accounts, spam traps, and malformed addresses, your analytics are not just inaccurate, they are actively deceptive. Imagine if Jackson, a fitness technology entrepreneur based in Austin, Texas, is looking at his dashboard in June 2026. He sees a list of 500,000 subscribers. He feels a sense of security. However, when he sends a promotional campaign for a new wearable device, his deliverability rate plummeting to 70%. Jackson is confused. He has great content, a strong offer, and a huge audience. What he does not realize is that over 100,000 of those addresses are defunct, and another 5,000 are pristine spam traps. To understand why this happens, we must look at the forensics of list hygiene. Step by step, the first thing you must address is the presence of spam traps. These come in two primary forms: pristine and recycled. A pristine spam trap is an email address created by an internet service provider or a blacklist provider specifically to catch marketers who use unethical data acquisition practices, such as scraping the web or purchasing lists. These addresses have never opted into anything. If you send an email to a pristine trap, it is an immediate signal to the ISP that you are a spammer. There is no middle ground. Historical trends show that hitting even a single pristine trap can result in your domain being blacklisted by major providers like Gmail or Outlook for weeks. Recycled spam traps are slightly different but equally dangerous. These are old email addresses that once belonged to real people, but were abandoned and eventually taken over by the ISP to monitor who is still sending mail to them. If you are hitting recycled traps, it tells the ISP that your list hygiene is non-existent. You are sending to people who haven't engaged in years. In 2026, the potential outcomes of ignoring these traps include a complete collapse of your sender reputation, which can take months of technical labor to repair. To prevent this, you must implement a multi-layered scrubbing process. Step 1 involves using a real-time verification tool at the point of entry. When a new subscriber enters their email address on your site, the tool should instantly ping the mail server to ensure the address is valid and active before it ever reaches your main database. This stops malformed addresses and temporary burner emails at the front door. Step 2 is a periodic deep scrub. Every quarter, you should run your entire list through a professional cleaning service that identifies known complainers, litigious subscribers who frequently report emails as spam, and dormant accounts that have turned into traps. Now, let us consider a case study of a mid-sized clothing retailer in Chicago. In early 2026, they faced a crisis where 40% of their emails were being diverted to the spam folder. Their open rates were at an all-time low of 8%. The marketing team decided to perform what we call the Great Purge. They identified every subscriber who had not opened or clicked an email in the last 6 months and moved them to a separate suppression list. They deleted nearly 35% of their total database. Most business owners would find this terrifying. However, within 30 days, their inbox placement rate jumped to 99%, and their total revenue from email increased by 20%. By removing the dead weight, they proved to the ISPs that they were a high-quality sender, and as a result, their messages were actually seen by the people who wanted them. Beyond physical cleaning, you must analyze the data from Google Postmaster Tools and Microsoft SNDS, or Smart Network Data Services. These are the flight recorders of your email marketing. Google Postmaster Tools allows you to see your domain reputation and IP reputation on a scale from bad to high. If your domain reputation is low, Gmail will automatically filter a large portion of your mail to spam, regardless of your content. In 2026, we monitor these graphs daily. If we see a dip in reputation, we immediately look at our recent acquisition sources. Often, a dip is caused by a specific lead generation campaign that brought in low-quality or fraudulent data. By identifying the source of the pollution, you can shut it down before it poisons your entire system. We also need to discuss the concept of the spam complaint rate. This is one of the most sensitive metrics in your analytics suite. In the current landscape, a complaint rate of 0.1% is the industry ceiling. That means if 1 out of every 1,000 people hits the report spam button, you are on the edge of the danger zone. If you hit 0.3%, you are looking at immediate delivery failures. Historical trends indicate that most spam complaints are not actually about spam. They are a reaction to irrelevance or difficulty in unsubscribing. If your unsubscribe link is hidden in a tiny font at the bottom of the email, people will use the spam button as a shortcut. From an analytics perspective, a high complaint rate is a signal that your content-to-audience match is misaligned. You are either sending too frequently or your messaging has drifted away from why the person signed up in the first place. Imagine if Sarah, who runs a professional development blog in New York, notices her complaint rate has spiked to 0.2%. By diving into her analytics, she realizes the complaints are coming almost exclusively from a segment of subscribers who joined during a specific holiday promotion. These people signed up for a discount, not for her long-form career advice. By segmenting these people out and sending them a different lower-frequency sequence, Sarah was able to drop her complaint rate back to near zero. This is the surgical application of list hygiene. It is not just about deleting, it is about proper categorization based on the data of dissatisfaction. Furthermore, we must look at the impact of gray mail on your analytics. Gray mail refers to emails that a user technically opted into but no longer wants. They don't report it as spam, but they don't open it either. They just let it sit in their inbox. In 2026, AI-driven filters at Apple and Google track this lack of engagement. If they see that a user has ignored your last 20 emails, they will start automatically moving your future emails to the promotions or spam folder for that specific user. This is a silent killer of your metrics because you are still paying to send those emails, but they have zero chance of being seen. This is why the sunset policy we discussed earlier is so vital. You must be willing to let go of the unengaged to protect the reach of the engaged. As we go deeper into the technical infrastructure, we have to recognize that your analytics are only as good as your tracking integrity. In the next layer of this masterclass, we are going to look at the invisible architecture of your emails. We will explore the impact of load times, image-to-text ratios, and the specific HTML tags that can trigger a spam filter or cause a mobile device to render your message as a garbled mess. We are moving from the list itself to the physical anatomy of the email. We will uncover why the way you build your emails is just as important as the people you send them to. We are about to look at the intersection of technical performance and user experience, where a millisecond of delay can cost you thousands of dollars in lost revenue. Get ready to deconstruct the code behind the click. The code behind the click is the invisible structural integrity of your email, and in 2026, it is the difference between a high-performing asset and a technical failure that ruins your sender reputation. Most marketers believe that if an email looks good in their builder, it will look good in the inbox. This is a dangerous assumption. We must first address the silent killer of email analytics, Gmail clipping. Every single person using a Google-based inbox is subject to a hard limit of 102 kilobytes of HTML code. If your email exceeds this size, Gmail will truncate the message, hiding everything below the cutoff point behind a view entire message link. Imagine a marketer named Marcus in Brooklyn who runs a high-growth weekly digest for tech professionals. Marcus loves to include deep dive articles, multiple high-resolution images, and several sections of sponsored content. In his pursuit of providing value, Marcus unknowingly creates an email that is 115 kilobytes. When that email hits the inboxes of his 40,000 Gmail subscribers, the bottom 10% of the content is clipped. This is catastrophic for Marcus's analytics because the tracking pixel, which records the open, and the unsubscribe link, which is a legal requirement in the United States, are almost always located at the very bottom of the HTML file. Consequently, Marcus's dashboard shows a massive drop in engagement that doesn't actually exist. His data is lying to him because his code was too heavy to load. Historical trends show that clipped emails can lead to a 50% underreporting of actual opens and a significant spike in spam complaints because frustrated users cannot find the unsubscribe button. To prevent this, you must engage in code minification. Step by step, this involves stripping out unnecessary characters, comments, and redundant CSS from your HTML. You should be using tools that specifically audit your file size before you hit send. If you are over the 102 kilobyte limit, you shouldn't just delete content, you should look at the underlying structure. Modern email service providers in 2026 often add invisible wrapper code and tracking parameters to every link, which can bloat a 90 kilobyte email into a 105 kilobyte email once it is actually dispatched. Understanding this technical overhead is vital for maintaining the accuracy of your engagement data. Next, we must analyze the image-to-text ratio. Historically, marketers were told to avoid image-only emails to bypass spam filters. In 2026, the stakes are even higher. AI-driven filters now perform optical character recognition to read the text inside your images. If your email consists of one giant image with no live text, filters flag it as a high-risk obfuscation tactic. Imagine if Elena, a luxury boutique owner in Portland, sends out a beautiful lookbook where all the text, the prices, the descriptions, and the call to action is baked into a single JPEG. Her potential outcomes for inbox placement are decimated. Not only do filters hate this, but from an analytics perspective, she is blind. She cannot see which specific products people are interested in because she only has one clickable area. Step by step, you should maintain a 60-40 ratio. 60% live, searchable text, and 40% imagery. This ensures that even if a user has images disabled, which is a default setting for many corporate Outlook users, they can still read your value proposition and take action. We have seen case studies where brands moved from image-heavy designs to a hybrid approach using HTML background colors and live text overlays. The result was a 22% increase in click-through rates, not because the design was better, but because the message was actually accessible to the entire list regardless of their mail client settings. This leads us to the critical data of dark mode optimization. In 2026, over 80% of mobile users in the United States have their devices set to dark mode. If you are not designing and analyzing for this, you are creating massive friction. Imagine a scenario where Julian, a digital product designer in San Diego, sends an email with a transparent logo that has black text. When that email is opened in dark mode, the black logo disappears into the black background. Julian's heat maps show that users are clicking randomly at the top of the email, confused because the branding is invisible. This creates a psychological bounce. The user feels the email is broken and closes it. To solve this, you must look at your device-specific analytics. If you see that your engagement is high on desktop but mysteriously low on mobile, dark mode rendering is the first thing you should audit. You should be using translucent glows around dark elements, or using specific CSS media queries that tell the email to swap out images based on the user's system theme. In 2026, your analytics are a reflection of your user experience. If your code is not adaptive, your data will show a trend of declining interest that is actually just a trend of technical frustration. Furthermore, we must discuss the impact of load times on your click-through data. A 1-second delay in mobile load time can result in a 20% drop in conversions. If your email is packed with 5 megabyte images, your subscribers on 5G or slower connections will see a series of empty boxes for several seconds. Most will delete the email before it ever fully renders. This results in a high open rate but a near zero click rate. In your deep dive analysis, you should be looking for a correlation between image weight and engagement. Step by step, you should be using modern file formats like WebP, which offer high-quality imagery at a fraction of the file size of a PNG or JPEG. We also have to account for the technicality of alt text. Alt text is the descriptive text that appears when an image fails to load. From an analytics perspective, alt text is a secondary call to action. If your image of a New York City penthouse doesn't load, the alt text should say click here to view the floor plan of this luxury penthouse, rather than image_01 JPG. Historical trends show that descriptive, action-oriented alt text can recover up to 15% of clicks that would have otherwise been lost to image blocking. This is about milking every single data point for maximum performance. Finally, we must look at the rise of interactive elements or AMP for email. In 2026, we are seeing more brands allow users to RSVP for events, scroll through product carousels, or even complete a checkout process without ever leaving the inbox. This completely changes how we measure success. Traditionally, a click took a user away from the email. With interactivity, the engagement happens inside the email. Your analytics suite must be capable of tracking these internal interactions. If you are using interactive elements but only measuring external clicks, your ROI reports will be dangerously undervalued. You need to be looking at the dwell time and the internal event triggers to see the true potential outcomes of these high-tech campaigns. As we have seen, the code is the skeleton that supports the entire body of your marketing strategy. If the skeleton is weak, the strategy collapses. We have covered the technical hurdles, the forensic list cleaning, the financial metrics, and the behavioral psychology. But there is one final piece of the puzzle that ties everything together. It is the part where we move from individual metrics to a holistic, high-level business strategy. How do you present all of this data to a CEO or a stakeholder to prove that email is your most valuable channel? How do you predict where the industry is going in the next 5 years? In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the future of email analytics. We will explore the integration of AI-driven predictive modeling and how to build an automated revenue machine that essentially runs itself based on the data points we have deconstructed today. We are about to zoom out and look at the big picture of your digital empire. The journey from a simple guide to a masterclass concludes with the ultimate strategy for 2026 and beyond. Prepare to see the future of the inbox. The big picture of your digital empire is no longer about spreadsheets. It is about the architecture of intelligence. In the current year 2026, we have moved past the era of descriptive analytics, which simply told us what happened, and into the era of prescriptive and predictive analytics. This is where your data stops being a rearview mirror and starts being a crystal ball. To truly master the final stage of this guide, we must explore the integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning into your daily reporting. We are no longer looking for a human to interpret a graph. We are looking for a system that can predict a trend before the human even wakes up. Imagine if a marketing executive named Robert in Atlanta is managing a portfolio of 3 different e-commerce brands. In the old world, Robert would spend his Monday mornings manually pulling reports from his email service provider and trying to guess why sales dipped on Sunday. In 2026, Robert's dashboard uses propensity modeling. This is a mathematical approach that assigns a probability score to every individual subscriber for a specific action. For example, the system analyzes a customer named Chloe and determines there is an 85% probability that she will make a purchase in the next 48 hours if she is presented with a specific educational case study about sustainable materials. Robert doesn't have to do anything. The system identifies the pattern, triggers the content, and records the result. Step by step, the implementation of predictive analytics starts with the ingestion of high-fidelity data. You must feed your machine learning model more than just opens and clicks. You need to feed it every touchpoint: website visits, past purchase history, customer service interactions, and even social media sentiment if available. Historical trends show that brands using integrated data sets to fuel their predictive models see a 30% increase in marketing efficiency. This is because they are no longer wasting impressions on people who are not in a buying window. They are focusing their energy where the data says the potential outcomes are highest. Let us look at a deep dive case study involving a national fitness chain based in Chicago. They were struggling with a high churn rate among their digital subscribers. By using predictive churn modeling, they identified a subtle behavioral signature that preceded a cancellation. Subscribers who stopped logging into the mobile app for 3 consecutive days and also stopped clicking on the weekly nutritional tips email were 90% likely to cancel their subscription within the next 2 weeks. Instead of waiting for the cancellation to happen, the chain automated a proactive intervention. On day 4 of inactivity, the system sent a personalized video message from a trainer the subscriber had previously interacted with. The potential outcome was a 40% reduction in churn over a 6-month period. This is the power of using analytics to solve a problem before it manifests as a loss on a balance sheet. Another major pillar of the 2026 strategy is the individualized cadence. We used to talk about the best time to send an email as if your entire list lived in the same time zone and had the same lunch break. Analytics now prove that every person has their own unique digital rhythm. Some people are early morning scrollers, while others engage with deep dive content late at night after their children are asleep. In this masterclass, we define individualized cadence as the automated adjustment of send times and frequencies based on an individual's historical engagement patterns. If your analytics show that a subscriber named Marcus in Seattle always opens emails at 9 p.m. on Sundays, why would you ever send him an email at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday? By shifting to an individualized cadence, you are maximizing the probability of being at the top of the inbox when the user is actually ready to engage. Furthermore, we must address the concept of the executive dashboard. If you are reporting to a CEO, a founder, or a board of directors, they do not care about your click-through rate. They care about the contribution margin of the email channel. To calculate this, you must subtract your cost of goods sold, your shipping costs, your marketing overhead, and your software fees from the total revenue generated by the email channel. In 2026, the most sophisticated marketers are presenting a metric called the incremental lift over control. This uses the holdout groups we discussed earlier to prove exactly how much revenue was created by the emails that would not have happened otherwise. This is the only way to justify a multi-million-dollar marketing budget. Imagine if you are standing in a boardroom and you can show that while your total revenue is up 10%, your email-driven incremental lift is responsible for 80% of that growth. You are no longer a cost center. You are a profit engine. Historical trends in the US market show that companies that can quantify their incremental lift are twice as likely to receive budget increases for their marketing departments. This is because you are speaking the language of finance, not just the language of marketing. We also need to discuss the future of the trust index. As privacy regulations continue to evolve, the most valuable data point in 2026 is the explicit consent and the depth of the relationship. We measure this through a trust index, which is a composite score of a subscriber's long-term engagement, their willingness to provide zero-party data, and their low rate of complaints. A high trust index score across your list is a leading indicator of brand stability. If your trust index is declining, it means you are burning out your audience, even if your short-term revenue looks healthy. You are essentially mining your brand equity, and eventually the mine will run dry. Analytics allow you to see the depletion of trust before it turns into a mass exodus. As we conclude this deep dive masterclass, you must realize that the tools and the metrics are just the means to an end. The end goal is to create a seamless, valuable experience for the person on the other side of the screen. In 2026, the brands that win are not the ones with the most data, but the ones who use that data to be the most human. You are using numbers to understand a human story. You are using analytics to be more relevant, more helpful, and more timely. This is the ultimate strategy for building a digital empire that lasts. You now possess the forensic tools to diagnose a failing campaign, the financial literacy to prove your worth, and the technical knowledge to build a high-performance infrastructure. You know how to spot a lie in your open rates, how to find the hidden revenue in your segments, and how to protect your reputation from the silent killers of the inbox. But the world of digital marketing never stands still. The strategies we have discussed today are the foundation for what is coming next. We have mastered the inbox, but the inbox is just one part of a larger, interconnected ecosystem. In our next deep dive series, we are going to step outside the inbox and look at the terrifyingly effective world of omnichannel synchronization. We will explore how to take the data you have gathered from email and use it to dominate SMS, social retargeting, and even personalized direct mail. We are about to show you how to surround your customer with a unified brand experience that feels like magic, but is actually just math. The loop is never truly closed, it just expands. Get ready to take everything you have learned about analytics and apply it to the entire customer journey. The next evolution of your digital empire starts now.